So today we're going to be covering adding values. How do we add value and where do we add value? So we're going to be adding value in the STP process, the segmentation, targeting and positioning process. We're going to be looking at the core business processes, and we're going to be viewing some mission statements and even touching upon why mission statements are so important. Session learning outcomes includes to critically evaluate the needs and techniques for controlling marketing activities, to critically assess the impact and value of a brand from a number of different stakeholder perspectives. So we're going to be discussing adding value, where we add value and why it's so important. So transitioning, from sellers to buyers markets includes competition, demanding customers, choice for customers, transformation of the value concept, and fragmented market segments. So if we look at the 3 V's of marketing approach, we've got, looking at the value segment, looking at the value proposition, and trying to review why we need the value network. So before we've looked at segmentation and positioning and how the business actually achieves all this within their business unit. But now we're going into a little more depth and talking about the value segmentation and the value proposition and the value network. So let's have a look at some of these elements. So what do we mean by value segment? So value segment is critical for pricing. Most segmentation criteria correlate poorly with the different motivations of different buyer groups to pay higher or lower prices. And secondly, even needs-based segmentations give priority only to those differences that are important to the customer. They miss the other half of the story, those customers' needs that have the greatest operational impact on the seller's costs to serve those needs. So let's look at the different stages of the value segment, and there are 6 different stages. Step 1 in the value segment includes to determine basic segmentation criteria. And, basic segmentation criteria we know includes segmenting the marketplace by the different group areas, including behavioralistic, psychographic, demographic, and geographic. Sometimes geographic and demographic are grouped together, but I like to, kind of separate them into 4 different groups. So, and here the goal of any market segmentation, dividing it into subgroups whose members have common criteria that differentiate their buying behaviors. And, most times, most students don't actually do this. They don't actually go into the segmentation. Most people actually go straight into the targeting and say, this is the type of person that we're actually, looking to target, without having done your segmentation in terms of those different groups, all the different groups, and then assessing all the different elements that's relevant to your marketplace. So it's very important that you do this before you go into targeting. Step 2 is to identify discriminating value drivers. Having preliminary segmentation in hand, you then need to identify value drivers. And what do we mean by value drivers? Well, the value drivers, these are the purchase motivators that, vary most among segments, but which have more or less homogeneous levels within segments. So this allows you to zero in on the most important to each customer segment. So, and you should never assume for pricing purposes that preliminary segmentations based on obvious criteria will coincidentally yield the most effective discrimination on value criteria. So step 3 is to determine operational constraints and advantages. And so in this step, you examine where you have operational advantages. Which value drivers can you deliver more efficiently at lower cost than others? And also, which drivers are constrained by your resources and operations? Inputs into this step can be, for instance, experience, capital spending plans, personal capabilities, and the overall company strategy. Step 4 is to create primary and secondary segments. This step combines, what you have learned so far about your customer values that differ about your, about your costs and constraints and serving different customers. Most firms will find it convenient to segment your marketplace, in multiple stages. And then steps 5 and 6. Step 5 is to create detailed segment descriptions. So value-based market segmentation variables can look meaningful to the price strategies, but segments should be described in everyday business terms so that salespeople, marketing communicators, planners know what kind of customers each segment represents and their motivating factors within those different segments. And step 6 is to develop segment metrics and fences. So this is the next logical step in pricing strategy and management. So here it's important to recognize that segmentation is not useful until you develop the metrics of value delivery for each segment and devise fences that encourage customers to accept price policies for their segments. Now let's look at the value proposition. So we've gone from the value segment to now the value proposition of what you're offering and the message that you want to get across in relation to really your competitors. So the value proposition tells prospects why they should do business with you rather than your competitors, and makes the benefits of your products or services crystal clear from the outset. So let's look at some value propositions. Uber's value proposition, offering Uber convenience. Apple's, offering unique experience. Slack's, focus on credibility and productivity. Digit's, offering hands-off savings and less accounting, offering improved quality of life. So this is what people are doing. But if you think about it, it's all good and well offering this. It's all good and well having done your segmentation. It's all good and well saying these are the motivators in terms of what people want. Excellent, great, you've targeted those people, fine. And now you're doing your value proposition, and it's all good and well coming up with your value proposition, but can you deliver it? Can you deliver it within your business? So we need to look at the value chain and look at all the different component parts in terms of the primary and the supporting activities within your business organization. We've looked at this before, we're going to look at it again. Primary and supporting activities in terms of the value chain. So let's have a look at this. So if we look at the generic value chain, we can see this the primary activities includes inbound logistics, operations. This is where your transformation process takes place, which leads to your outbound logistics, and obviously you have your marketing and sales and your service. And then the supporting activities will include your procurement, your supplies, your technological development, and you need that technological development and CRM, corporate, CRM strategies, corporate relationship, customer relationship management, and the software and the development within your business structure. You need human resource management, and you need the infrastructure within your organization. And these obviously lead to your margin and how you conduct your business effectively and efficiently, which gives you your margin. Or if you're not doing it as efficiently as your competitors, which will lead you to less margin. So again, this is what gives you your value proposition, and if you can deliver what you say that you are going to deliver. So here we have a little exercise here. You have 30 minutes to discuss in teams of 3 to 4s how marketing affects customer value. How does marketing affect customer value? So think about that, because we're going to do this in class. So now we're going to look at the core business processes, and then we're going to look at the mission statement. So if you remember at the beginning, we said we're going to look at the value proposition, we're going to look at the core business, and then we're going to look at the mission statement. So the core business processes includes, thinking about the market sensing process, the new offering realization process, the customer acquisition process, the customer relationship management process, and the fulfillment management process. Some of the characteristics of core competencies includes, it is a source of competitive advantage. It's definitely a source of competitive advantage. I mean, even if you look at Toyota when they came out with just in time, if you think about it, implementing just in time and being the first, company to implement just in time meant that they had developed and taken time to make close links with their suppliers, so that the suppliers delivered their component parts at the time that they needed these component parts, on the day, at the right time, with the right quantity, with the right quality of component parts, so it could be delivered straight onto the production line. So this basically meant that they didn't have or need a warehouse, they didn't need stocking, they didn't need staff in terms of warehouse manager, didn't need the infrastructure, didn't need the software, didn't need all these additional costs. Which meant that if you think about it in terms of your profit and loss account, you have your sales minus your cost of goods sold, gives you your gross profit, minus your overheads, which is your expenses to the firm, which gives you your net profit. So if your cost of goods are lower because you're not buying stock and you're just buying the stock when you actually need it to go into the production line, and you're not holding stock in terms of your opening stock and closing stock, and then you don't have warehousing costs, staff costs, infrastructure costs for holding the stock, then you've got lower overall costs, which lead to higher net profit, which leads to, after you take off your interest charges and your corporation tax, and then your shareholders' dividends, then leads to retained earnings, which goes into the equity side of your balance sheet, which basically means that you have more equity within your business on your balance sheet to use to invest into new product development, into marketing, into research, into paying your staff better to motivate them to increase their productivity and their efficiency, therefore giving you a competitive advantage over your competitors who are not doing this. In addition to this, it has implications in a wide variety of other markets, and it also is difficult for competitors to imitate. So, steps in the business realignment process includes to define a business concept. What is the business concept? Shaping the business scope and positioning the brand identity. But, ensuring that your whole value chain can actually meet your positioning and brand identity as well. So, questions answered by the holistic marketing framework include, how can we identify new value opportunities? How can we efficiently create more promising new value offerings? How can we use capabilities and infrastructure to deliver the new value offerings more efficiently? So what is a marketing plan? A marketing plan is the central instrument for directing and coordinating the marketing effort. Is where your focus is going to be. It's where your allocation of resources and staff and people and finances are going to be geared towards achieving your overall aims and objectives, and having that plan is extremely important. And that planning process will include corporate planning, divisional planning, business planning, product planning, which will lead to your organizing and implementing, which must then be controlled in terms of measuring the results and diagnosing results, and if necessary taking corrective action. So planning activities includes to defining the corporate mission, defining what the business is, assigning resources to each SBU, strategic business unit, and assessing growth opportunities. Questions to ask when thinking about a mission and defining a mission includes, before you can do your mission statement, what is our business? Who is the customer? What is the value of the customer? What will our business be? And what should our business be? So let's have a look at the mission statement, because the mission statement is at the beginning of your whole strategic organizational plans and the direction of your company. So if we look at Volvo, Volvo's mission statement: to create the safest and most exciting car experience for modern families. And even if you look at the design and the steel bars in the side of the doors, the construction of the boot and the bonnet, and if you get hit anywhere on a Volvo, you're most likely to survive in a Volvo than any other car. If we look at eBay, eBay says, we help people trade practically anything on earth. We will continue to enhance our online trading experience of all collectors, dealers, small businesses, unique item seekers, bargain hunters, opportunity sellers, and browsers. Some of the characteristics of a good mission statement will include, state a limited number of goals, stress the company's major policies, values, and culture, define major competitive spheres, take a long-term view, and state it in brief with flexibility and distinction. So, if you were to think about a mission statement, what, in your opinion, would be a good mission statement? Can you take a position? So, take a position. Mission statements are critical to the success of marketing organization. Would you agree or disagree with this? Is a mission statement critical for the business or not? What do you think? And mission statements really provide useful marketing value. What do you think? Do mission statements provide useful marketing value or not? So we're going to be looking at these in class. Let me know what you think. Definitions of businesses, include BP sells fuels, Rennet sells automobiles, BP sells fuels. In terms of the market definition, BP sells energy, or Renault supplies transport vehicles, for example. Major competitive spheres, you must take into consideration various elements, which includes the industry, the geographic, vertical, market segmentation, the competencies of that industry, and the products, and how competitive it is as well. Characteristics of a strategic business unit, include, it is a single business or a collection of related businesses that can be planned separately from the rest. It has its own competitors, and it has a manager responsible for strategic planning and profit performance. And if we look at the strategic planning gap, we're saying to ourselves, what do you want to achieve in terms of sales growth over what period of time, and how are you going to get there? Is it going to be via diversification, integrated growth, intensive growth? So exactly how you want to get there with your current portfolio and new portfolios and so on and so forth, which will then bring in the BCG matrix and your strategic planning. And if we look at the business unit strategic planning process, which includes, we said at the beginning, the mission, the vision, the aims and objectives, and then your situation analysis. Your situation analysis in terms of SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Strengths and weaknesses being internal to the business, and opportunities and threats being external to the business. And then we talked about Pestel in terms of political, economic, social, technological, legal and environmental factors, and also Porter's 5-force model I'd put in there as well. Then you have your goal formation, dependent upon your situation analysis, strategy formulation in terms of your STP, your segmentation, targeting and positioning strategy, and now value segmentation, and value positioning, program formation, exactly formulation, exactly how is this going to be conducted, over what period of time and what resources, and implementation of the, I would say, extended marketing mix, the product, price, place, promotion, people, process and physical evidence. And this will lead back onto feedback and control, and also, if necessary, corrective action. Here we have your SWOT analysis, and again, the SWOT analysis, is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats to your business. We will be going into this in more detail with separate slides and videos for this. Market opportunity analysis, we need to think about various things. Can we articulate the benefits to a target audience? Can we locate the target market and reach them with cost-effective media and trade channels? Does our company possess or have the access to critical capabilities and resource we need? Because you may not have the critical resources and capabilities to specific skill sets or people that you might need to undertake your business manufacturing process. Can we deliver the benefits better than competition to give you a USP or competitive advantage? Otherwise, how are you going to compete? Is it just going to be a market penetration and on cost? Will the rate of return meet or exceed our expectations? So we're gonna look at Porter's generic strategies again. We've looked at this a number of times, and again we will go into this in more detail. Again, forms of strategic alliances, product or service alliance, promotional alliances, logistical alliances, and pricing collaborations. And this needs to be taken into consideration in terms of your value chain as well. What alliances do you need to have, and why? Because maybe you need to have these. If you again look at just in time and Toyota, working with their suppliers, and their suppliers don't supply anyone else. The suppliers only supply Toyota for their just in time. Their whole company is geared towards one customer, which is Toyota. This is their alliance. And elements of strategy. What do the elements of strategy include? Includes the organizational structure. What structure do you have? What is your strategy? Are you going to go global? Are you going to stay domestic? What is your strategy? What is your organizational structure? It is a domestic orientating structure. Is it a multi-domestic structure? Is it a global structure? Depending upon your strategy. What about the systems in place and the style? What about the skills that you need in your workplace and the staff that you have? And what about the shared values, the organizational culture? And so the contents of a marketing plan will obviously include an executive summary, which will be done last, but be first on your marketing plan, followed by a table of contents, and then your situation analysis, followed by SWOT and PESTEL and Porters. But more market information analysis needs to be done, and also reviewing the company's accounts and where they're going and what's actually happening as well. Very, very important. You can't just base it on superficial information. You really do need to go into detail in here. Marketing strategy, and again, you need to break this down. You need to break down STP, segmentation, targeting position. You need to break down the behavioralistic, psychographic, demographic, and geographic segmentation groups, and then the different elements within those groups, and then adding value to those. Financial projections. What are you trying to achieve over what period of time, and what are your implementation and controls in place? So, the contents of a marketing plan will include your executive summary, contextual analysis, customer analysis, competition analysis, company strategic approach, channel analysis in terms of distribution and marketing communications, cash analysis, going back to the balance sheet and seeing what you have, and marketing management, implementation and control. So, Kotler on strategy. We're not going to look at this video, we'll do that in class. So today we have covered adding value. We've gone through that in a little bit of detail. We looked at the core business process, and we've reviewed again the mission statement. So thank you today from Mr. Tan.